Well, good morning, folks. It's a very early morning. The sun has just risen behind me, and I'm in a great mature forest surrounded by majestic trees from a great vintage. However, that's not why I'm here. I'm heading through this forest as I approach the great mountain range of the Galtees. And today I'm not going to scale the summit of Galtee Moor because I succeeded in doing that a few months ago in absolutely gorgeous weather. But today I'm on a different mission, and I'll describe as I progress. But the weather is nice. It's 1 degree. The sun has just come up from behind me, as you can see. This is a majestic forest. So I'll chat as I make my way on my mission this morning. Here we see a representative of the largest and oldest of all living things, the sequoia dendron of California. This 140-foot high specimen is possibly the largest tree here in Glengarra, but even that is a mere juvenile compared to the 300-foot giants of the tree's native habitat, some of which are almost 4,000 years old. The thick bark accounts in part for the tree's survival to such a great age, as it effectively insulates the tree against frequent forest fires that strike the forests in the high Sierra Mountains. Glengarra is located on the southern foothills of the Galtee Mountains and is approximately 12 kilometers west of the town of Kerr. The Irish name on Glangarry means either the rough glen or Garra's glen. Garra was a local chieftain in the 2nd century AD. The earliest maps show that there has been a forest here for centuries. During the 19th century, Viscount Lismore built a mountain lodge in a beautiful location here in Glengarra and surrounded it with a plantation of about 150 acres containing many unusual and exotic trees. Over the years, an elaborate network of roads and pathways and trackways have been created to facilitate the general public. As you can see, I'm pretty well wrapped up for this morning's adventure. It's the 4th of January 2024. It's the start of a new year, and today, this morning, is my 4th walk. But today will be the first of an extensive walk. The sound of nature and this wood. There's the overwhelming acoustics from the river on my right, and the odd bird scurrying amongst majestic trees pointed to the sky. So this morning, the gods once again bestow ideal and beautiful weather for walking. Last year, 2023, was a huge year for walking for me. A huge year of walking for me, rather. And I intend to exceed that walking this year. As I walk along here, folks, the sun is beginning to obviously rise up from the horizon and is casting these great big shadows on this mature forest right over my head. It's a gorgeous morning, and again folks, I chose well. What I mean is I chose the day of the morning well to get out and about in the great outdoors. Oak trees cling to the steep slopes of the Burncoat River, which bisects this wood. Alder and silver birch grow near the river, with ash, hazel, holly and rowan. During spring and summer, yellow pimpernel, bilberry and lady fern can be seen on the forest floor. Look carefully and you may see the signs of fallow deer, the red squirrel, the pine marten, the badger and the fox. I'm again donning the big backpack and the lunch and all the gear, technology is within. Today, this morning rather, I've decided to leave the drones at home because I knew the early part of this walk would be dense forests. So there's another big walk coming up very shortly and I'll equip myself with the drones and give you viewpoints from above. Now I have the river on my right, accompanying me all the ways to the lower slopes of the Galtee Mountains. Looking down there behind me, over my left shoulder, you can see vines reaching from a mature tree, reaching down towards the water and the rapids. Very jungle-like scene. What you see here is a magnificent waterfall here, deep in mature woods. Right here in the center, at the base of the fall, would be the most beautiful swimming hole in nice weather. So I'll have to keep this in mind for this year's adventure in the middle of summer. The river is born of many streams rising on the flanks of the Galtees, the highest inland range of hills in Ireland, and is subject to occasional flash floods, which can present a tremendously impressive sight in these woods. In the riverbed, the sandstone and conglomerate boulders rounded by the action of the water, all of these are sand rocks. They have been formed from fragments of other rocks that were broken down by weathering or erosion. Well now folks, if I were to tell you that I have been watching the weather for the past few days in preparation for this morning's walk, I'd be lying. I checked the weather yesterday afternoon and then decided that rain, hail or snow, shine, wind, cyclone, I don't care. I'm out, I'm gone. And here I am. My philosophy is weather waits for no man. So if you're going to adopt and embrace the idea of sitting at home waiting for the Irish weather to clear, you'll be sitting at home every day, on most days. Now I am very lucky when it comes to weather for walking. It's quite wet underfoot. Quite wet. There's torrents of water, not only running down on the river to my right, but right underfoot on this gravel pathway, or trackway. Coming off the slopes of the mountains. Now, the hills begin, and the jacket may have to be removed. When I walk in this forest, or in a forest like this, I can't help thinking about what Ireland must have looked like thousands of years ago, when the landscape was covered with unbroken vegetation. Long before human beings came and set foot on this place. So when you walk in here, you can link to what Ireland must have looked like thousands of years ago. So I've arrived here at an Óga. So after a long walk from the Trailhead car park with the Burnt Court River on my right, mostly on the journey, I've arrived at the Mountain Lodge, which was built as a shooting lodge for the first Viscount Lismore, Cornelius O'Callaghan, on what was part of the Shanbally estate in the townland of Cullina. Shanbally Castle 1810 and later Mountain Lodge were designed by John Nash, one of the most important Regency architects of the early 19th century. Samuel Luce wrote in 1837 that his lordship had lately erected a lodge, a structure of much beauty in the glen of the Galtees. The last owners of the Mountain Lodge were ladies Beatrice Pole Carew and Constant Butler, co-heiresses of the last Lord Lismore. From 1937 to 2012, this lodge was leased by an Óga and was run as a youth hostel. In 2015, Burnt Court Community Council began a conservation and restoration project to preserve this beautiful mountain lodge. The outer garment has been removed because it's quite warm, stroke hot, heading into the hills. So we continue on our trek. Now today's trek will probably be around 4 hours, about 4 hours. Looking at the calculations last night, I would imagine that's what it will take me to do what I intend to do. Imagine in Ireland, in the Emerald Isle, the 4th day of January, and one can take off jackets and clothes while walking. I've had the river on my right. Since crossing the bridge and heading to the lower slopes of the mountains, the river is now on my left. Now we did have a frost last night, a sort of a white frost. But here on the mountains you can see it's more distinct than it is down on the lower valley near the car park. But we did have a frost. But it was 1 degree when I began walking. It's still hovering at 2. But the coat is off. And I'm getting ready for the hills. It's beautiful out here this morning. Absolutely beautiful. It makes one appreciate health, life, my surroundings, my strengths and ability, and of course willpower. to get up and get out and get stuck in, as they say down under. Get stuck in. Well, now I've arrived at really rough underfoot terrain. Stones, puddles, muck, washaways, loose gravel, and it's all uphill. So, once again, the body is going to shake itself of the Christmas cobwebs on the 4th of January. My companion for the last hour and a half has paled away into insignificance. You can just hear it rumbling away there in the distance. I'm talking about the river, of course. So as I head up now onto the lower slopes, I should be clearing the forest. Well, I'm here pretty high up now at the moment. Haven't checked the altitude, but now I have full sun, and I mean full sun. I have a clearing left and to my right, and the mountains are right behind me. Looking up onto the slopes there now to my front, behind you, many sheep plying their trades on the lower slopes of the mountains. But there's a low-lying fog descending on one of the peaks as I chat to you. Once again, I find myself, not by accident, deliberate, I find myself in very isolated countryside. It's what attracts me. The peace and the quiet. Only nature to listen to look at, to enjoy, and to embrace. I love places like these, but I am not a big mountain trekker. But occasionally, I set my mind on one or two peaks, but it's an occasional decision. Being out in places and environments like this clears your head and refreshes your whole well-being. It's like a reboost for me here this morning, because I don't like being confined in a house or in a space for very long. I spend most of my life, since I was born, I guess, in the open outdoors. I'm an outdoor person, and thank goodness, even with bad weather, wet weather, when I do walk, I rarely get the sniffles. Take a look at the landscape vista behind moi. Just take a look at that. Wouldn't that clear your head? Well, as I make my way, well and truly, across the tundra, Galtee Moor and Galtee Beag are there in front of me, majestically laid out on the landscape with a great big knoll in the center. I feel my walking on terra firma has come to a rather bitter end. So now I'm on peaty marshland and heading straight upwards, and it's very, very slushy underfoot. So this is going to be a difficult hour or so. I've reached rather difficult terrain. Very boggy, very marshy, very, very boggy. And I have a river down there that I need to get across. So I better get down there and plan my transit across it. But it's pretty boggy here now and very hilly. And one can take a stupid tumble here now very easily. So you just have to be very, very cautious. I've arrived at the juncture of two rivers, not just one, but two. So I'm now doing a recce as to which one I'll get across first, because I can see an option on the other side of this one here, and maybe I can skirt around the bigger one. That is quite deep here, so I may have to remove the boots, etc., to get across here. Now this water is coming straight from the Galtee Mountains, so it's not going to be at boiling point. It's still at 2 degrees. I'm in the shade here. I'm in a deep shade here. But that's not the bother, it's getting across. This bloody thing is the first port of call for me. So here I go. Now I've gotten myself across the first one with great difficulty. There was a lot of slipping and splashing, but the equipment has been saved and so has the body. But just down there's another river which I must get across now, but there's a great big ravine. A little bit wet, but I made it across both rivers. A little bit damp, a lot of splashing, a lot of slipping. A few obscenities here and there to get me across, but it's quite deep. I suppose those of you watching this and the antics of this fella here, probably saying, what does this guy have for his breakfast? Lunatic soup? My God, look at this for a swimming hole here. Oh, I'll pan the camera around and show you this. Imagine coming upon this on a hot summer's day. Days like the ones I had when I did all my walking last year. Oh man, that's magnificent there. But it's ice cold water. But I'm now in deep wilderness. I'm unlikely to find anybody walking here. I don't even see a sheep. When you're walking in isolation, in other words, in places like these, become familiar where you are. I've just checked my phone here, and my phone is a new iPhone, and I had no signal. And up to an hour ago, I had basic 3G, which wouldn't do anything for you, I think, if you were in trouble. So be aware of where you are walking and where you are going. Okay? The next proposition that I find myself pondering upon is, where will I have the grub today? Where will be a good place to sit down with a good panoramic vista in front of me or right around me and have lunch? Unlike last year, I was blessed with the most absolutely stunning places to have my lunch. But now we're in the depths of an Irish winter, even though that the sun is belting down on me there at 2 degrees Celsius. Everything underfoot is like a bog. So places to sit down might be difficult to acquire. Well, I'm here eventually on my destination, a place that I had pinpointed a few days ago, and I've now reached it. The scenery is magnificent, rugged, bleak, boggy, but dry and sunny. Bit of cloud filtering in on the sky there in front of me as I look towards Galtee Moor, which is just up ahead of me, but I've reached my destination. And the scenery, as I say, is just breathtaking. Now it's the middle of winter, it's quite cold. Oh, incidentally, the temperatures have gone back to 1. That's not a good sign for this old boy, but I don't care. But it is now 1 degrees, but the sun is shining. As I say, I'm going to partake in some lunch here, build up my strength, overcome my thirst, pack up and head back. So I'll have, today's walk will be about 4 hours, maybe 4¼ hours, which is a sizable hike for the 4th of January, a new year, the 4th of January. So I'm very happy with myself now, having reached here, because I thought this might have been a bit of a scramble. It might not be the most picturesque dining locations that I've enjoyed over the past few years, but nevertheless, I found a dry stone to put my bottom upon, and the sun is shining in on me. But I'm back in the woods, and I come down off the peaks, and the weather is glorious. It's gone back up to 2 degrees. I'm having my sustenance, sandwich, and tea from my thermos. So now I have an hour and a half of a walk back to my car. So I'm going to now dine in peace and in private. Okay? Oops, oops, oops. I nearly became a cropper. I nearly became a cropper. The terrain here changes from heavy gorse to heather, which I'm now trying to get through. In the heather, it's difficult to see some sort of a pathway. But there really isn't any pathway here. It's just shows the best foothold on the ground. Because there's running water coming at me from, as you can see, there's running water coming from my left to my right. I've arrived at a very deep gully, a sort of a sleepy hollow, but it's not too sleepy, with a raging river right down below me, right in front of me and below me. Torrential rapids, great big bouldered riverbed, and another river again converges right here in front of me. And I was thinking, after doing my recce, that I could make my way across both of them there at that juncture, but the water is too deep, and as I'm in deep shade here, it's rather cold. Just thinking there to myself, wouldn't this make an absolutely outstanding movie location? Getting equipment and gear and personnel in here would be a different story, probably choppered in. You can still hear me above the thundering sound of waterfalls in this sleepy hollow, this glade of waterfalls and deep water. This is a magic place. I'll certainly come back here in the summer and the warm months, and I'll take my body in there. That's the Sleepy Hollow experience that I've just taken you through. Unbelievable here. Quite cold here now though. But now I'm ready to depart. And then going back up onto the slopes over there, where the sun is shining, to heat up my poor body after my 20 minutes of scurrying around there taking photographs and videos. But I do what I have to do. My philosophy in life is, if you don't capture it right now in the moment and you step up there 20 meters, too late. Too late. You capture it now, you can delete it, destroy it, burn it, eat it, if you like, or publish it. But I capture everything that I think is worthy of a capture. And then I work my magic afterwards. Either dump, bin, or keep. Okay? So from this beautiful neck of the woods, literally, I'm going to continue on my merry way. But now I have another river to get across, okay? The predominant soundtrack for this video today will obviously be the acoustics of running water. I'm surrounded by water. I have been surrounded by water today. But it's easy on the ears. It's nature at its best. It has a calming effect on me, actually. But I'll say one other thing now. It's after getting very, very cold. It's 1 degree, no phone signal whatsoever. Nothing. So I'll be resorting to the old tried and tested smoke signal or bush pigeon if I had something to write upon. But no phone signal. So if you come to these parts, be aware of where you are, be aware of your ability and your limitations, and have an escape plan if something goes wrong. Always bear in mind where you are. Keep an eye on your surroundings, familiarize yourself with certain aspects of the landscape, and hopefully you'll be okay. Now I've got to cross over here, and I'm putting the camera and the technology away. Too expensive to fall into the drink there. I've just come through a horrendous 25 minutes of marshy, peaty, boggy mountain side. 25 minutes it took me to trawl through it. It was unbelievable, and it was even downhill. It was lethal. But anyway, we took our time coming through it and kept the technology in the backpack. Whatever about personal injury, we don't want to injure the technology. That says a lot about me, doesn't it? As you can see, I've put the outer jacket back on. It got quite chilly there, coming down from the slope of the hill, of the mountain. I was in the shade the whole ways down because the sun is on the other side, and I'm still in shade here. Now, having a look at my phone, I have 3G signal back on my phone. I had no signal for quite a long time while I was up on the hills there, up on the mountains. But the temperature is now back up at 2 degrees at the moment. And the sun, there to my right, heading towards the west, is just beginning to peep over the hill as I progress down this gravelled track. But coming over the top of Galtee Mountains there earlier on, I'll tell you, it puts a fair tax on your hips, your knees and your ankles. It's so uneven and boggy and deep drains and running water. It's quite difficult going with a backpack. But that's what we have to be prepared for. We can't go out every day and expect to have the terrain nice and flat and dry and level and be comfortable with that. I don't care what is ahead of me. If it gets between me and an objective, you have to traverse it. Countryside of the landscape out here is quite very isolated, quite rough, hilly, boggy and difficult for walking. So be aware of that if you come onto these parts. There are these gravel tracks, as you can see here. They're simply for getting the trucks and the transport in and out when they're harvesting the timber. Now, I have been walking for just over 3 hours, and I haven't met one human being. So that's how isolated this place is. Not one human being. I've seen some sheep, a couple of birds of prey, lots of rivers, lots of landscape, but no humans. Moi, on my own. Many people, I think, have a fear of walking alone. I'm the extreme opposite. I've met groups on and off, and there'd be 10, 12, 15, maybe 20, sometimes more, sometimes a lot less, but anyway. And the chatter and the cross opinions, and we should go this way, no, we should go that way, no, I've been this way before, no, that's not the way, all this kind of a thing. Sorry, I am responsible for myself, and I am not a selfish person. I decide where I'm going and when to turn back. And then I can appreciate, embrace and love nature without the constant interruption of chatter. But as I said, please don't take offense. If that's what you like to do, walk in groups, chase it down and go for it. When I go walking, folks, especially along a good long distance walk, but any walk, I walk every day, as you know, every day without fail, in all kinds of weather. That's a me thing. But when I walk, I feel rejuvenated even as I walk. I feel loose. My head is clear. I feel at peace with the world. I adore and embrace the silence, the sounds of nature, sounds of a river here now again on my right hand side. Those are the benefits that I get and receive from my walking. I'm blessed, I suppose, really and truly, to have the willpower, the determination, and the ability and the strength and the decision making to afford me to get up and get out every day and do what I like doing. I've worked hard all my life, very hard. And now I have this time where I can walk and enjoy the outdoors. Hills and hills and hills, and detours, and river crossings, and traversing mountain slopes. And still no sign of a human being. And just when I thought I was the only person in the world today, I just met my first human being. Passed me with his head down, and we're probably the only two creatures for a 10-mile radius, and I can never understand what sort of an effort that people think they need to apply to say, hello mate, good afternoon, happy new year, or buzz off. But he passed with his head down, and there were two expletives that I used that I won't use here. I've traversed a multitude of different landscape terrain today, and now I'm back in a very mature forest, and the rivers and the streams and the mountains are far behind. To coincide with the celebration of the third millennium in 2000, 16 woodlands around Ireland comprising 1,500 acres were chosen as the people's Millennium Forests and were dedicated in perpetuity to the people of Ireland. 1.3 million young trees of native species were planted on the sites, a tree for every household in Ireland. The Millennium trees were planted in sections of the area shown as young mixed native woodland. These saplings have developed into a young, vibrant native woodland community, rich in both plant and animal life. It will take centuries for these forests to reach ecological maturity. Naturally, some of the trees you see here today will disappear from the developing forest, whilst others will survive to maturity. Many more young trees will join the developing woodland through the natural processes over time. The People's Millennium Forests is the largest ever project in Ireland, aimed at restoring and managing our native woodlands. Native woodlands are forests or woodlands made up of 3 species that occur naturally in Ireland, such as oak, ash, elm, Scots pine, yew and birch. Once an intimate part of our culture, Ireland's native woodlands were in danger of becoming a lost legacy. And this project, with the support of AIB and the National Millennium Committee, is a hugely successful step to redress centuries of over-exploitation, neglect and clearance of our native forests. There are 3 waymarked walking trails here in Glangarra Woods. The Loop Walk, 1.6 kilometres long, takes in the Arboretum, where you will find some magnificent specimen trees, including the sequoia dendron or the redwood species. The longer Millennium Trail, which is 7 kilometres, is particularly beautiful, incorporating old forest tracks, and the Millennium Track itself, an avenue enclosed in an arboreal rhododendron canopy. The stunning mountain lodge, along with views of the Galtee Mountains and the Burned Court River. And then you have the Scots Pine Walk, which is 2 kilometres, traverses through an impressive stand of Scots pine, and was planted in 1950. The bridge forms a pleasant vantage point from which to observe the Burned Court River in its restless race to join the Shanbally River in the valley near Claheen. I'm at the end of my odyssey for today. I'm here in a beautiful forest, a gorgeous forest, as the sun begins to sink lower on the horizon. So I've done a lot of walking today on many different terrains: gravel roads, river banks, peatland, tundra, mountain slopes, valleys, gorges, ravines, and the slopes of Galtee Beag. The body feels it now, but I don't complain about that ever. So folks, thank you for tagging along with me. I always appreciate the company. As I keep saying to you, I do all the walking, I do all the talking. So thank you all for tagging along with me. I hope you enjoyed today's trek. 21.2 kilometres in total. Not a bad day's work so far, and don't even get paid for it. Have a good day, folks. Happy New Year to you all. Take care and God bless you all.
Help us find peace, though it feels out of reach. Fill us with love, that one will